What is up, everyone? Today we are back with another episode of Fix It Fool's Garage. Today on this 1950 Shriner's car, and it's gonna go from this to this. Today we're gonna have to completely rebuild this thing from its wheels to its steering system to its powertrain and everything in between, and also give it a nice coat of fresh paint. Now here's another angle of this, and as you can see, it is gonna be no easy feat because. Oh wait, shoot, that's driving away. Now, repairing this thing completely is gonna be no easy task, just because of the utter state of disrepair it's in, so let's hop straight into it. Today, we're trading that old go-kart for something pretty cool, and I think you're gonna wanna see this one. Let's just say, it's pretty old. Well, what it's based off is pretty old, but... So, we're gonna head over to this house and trade it right now, and we'll show you what we pick up after. This is what we ended up trading that other go-kart for. It's, what do you think this is, Model A?
Here's your brake.
Oh. This is a Model A replica go-kart, would you say? Model A go-kart. And one of the two. Yeah, but we thought this was really neat because my great-grandpa,
Your great-grandpa.
yeah, my great-grandpa owned a collection of Model Ts, obviously. Model A's and Model Ts. No? All Model A's? Yeah, but we thought this was particularly neat. But back here's our drive assembly. It's got a differential, and it's belt-driven, but we don't have any of the belts or anything.
We have to figure out. This handbrake system also seems to operate kind of like maybe a clutch or something, because it's got two different levers that you can operate. I'm not exactly sure how this works yet.
And it's got the crank start from the front.
Believe it or not, that's a little bit of suspension there.
Oh, heck yeah.
No, not really, but...
It might move a little. But, I mean... The seating, I don't fit too bad. Steering wheel's kind of like in my face though. So
yeah, that's not ideal.
We're gonna mount this engine right on there. It's a little dusty. Now it's a couple months later. We traded that go-kart for this old Steiner's car. I'm pretty sure that's what it is at least. Traded it for a Model A Steiner's car. It's missing the steering wheel, the engine, and all the components. It looks like the previous owners stripped it entirely. So we've got bare bones left, but I do have a plan for an engine right now. So this is where our engine goes. As you can see, it's a belt-driven engine, but I think I might change that. Now, to solve the problem of this thing not having an engine, I just so happen to have this Honda GC 160 right here, but there's one minor problem with that. It doesn't quite fit, but I've got an idea. I also happen to have this beat up old cart, and at first, it may not look like nothing crazy, but this plate right here is what we're after. It already has engine mounting spots in it, which are adjustable for when we make this thing a chain drive. So, all I gotta do is undo some bolts, cut it down to size, and screw it in, and we should have ourselves an engine mounted. So let's start by doing that. Now with that fully disassembled, if I were to, per se, put it right here and cut it down to size, that would be a pretty good fit, especially if I set it like that. And then our engine mounts are already in place and we can just put it on there. But obviously, nothing is quite that simple. So we need to make sure this actually bolts in right. Which it looks like it might need a little bit bigger mounts, but that's all right, we can do that. The Steiner's car is now on the floor, and I went ahead and got this all cut and loosely mocked it up with some machine screws and some lock washers. Once I know this is permanent, I'll put something more permanent, like nuts and bolts in, but pretty sturdy. So now I'm gonna work on getting this engine mounted, because if you look, when we throw this engine on, if I push it back just a touch, I want it right on the edge right there. Right there. You can see we're gonna need to drill some mounting holes, but I think that will be fine. But I also need to cut out a little slot right here for where our chain or belt or whatever is going. So I'm gonna work on cutting this out and mounting it all up. A lot of this process is just me staring at it and trying to figure out what I want to do. But I went ahead and cut out and, not sanded, but grinded a slit right here for the belt or chain or whatever we decide to do. And I set the engine up here. It's not mounted. I've got some mounting bolts in my hand with 2 washers and some nylock on there. And now I just got to figure out where I want it, because honestly I don't have the system as to what we're gonna hook up to this yet, but I'd like to get it mounted so I can turn the engine on and, like, I don't know, just feel like I accomplished something. What I'm thinking is I want this right here to make draining the oil easy and changing the oil. That way the maintenance on this thing is real easy. But also what I'm thinking is I need to put this shaft, the start of this shaft, right at the edge. But that also, if you look at it, that edge, trying to connect to that pulley. At the end of the day, I might take this belt off, or this pulley off right here, and put on a sprocket, and then put a centrifugal clutch and another sprocket right here, and chain drive it. But I'm not sure if that's what I want to do yet.
You know, that's probably all right.
Now, while I'm waiting for engine parts, I was diagnosing the steering a bit more, and you can see this is how this steering arm is supposed to look, and this is how this one looks, which is preventing us from steering in any capacity. So we need to bend this back, so I'm gonna do that and I'll come back after. As you can see, we've got a great toe angle right now. We are not gonna be going anywhere, but I have found that not only was this bent, it's a little straighter now, but this really wasn't too much of a problem. But not only is this bent, but our whole steering column is locked up. So I need to flip this over and see why this is locked up, because even when hitting it with a hammer and trying to break it free, it just does not want to move. So I pulled the whole steering shaft out of the car, and someone welded the steering linkage. So I think I'm just gonna continue through with my plan of putting a bearing in. So let's do it. Alright, let me show you my thought process. So I grinded this down and got this bracket off right here. So what I'm planning on doing is putting the bracket back on right here, but instead of it being welded to this, I'm going to weld the bearing to this, and then I'm going to weld just a little bit of the bearing to the metal right here, and then that should give us free spinning while we can still weld this to our frame, and then that should, in theory, give us a steering linkage. So I'm gonna do that. We got this welded up, the bearing still spins and it's on there. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna throw this on here like this, and then we're gonna take it up here and we're gonna weld this. We're gonna weld this to the go-kart, and then it should just spin freely. So we're gonna try and do that. Now if I shove this right there into its spot, it all spins kind of like normal, and then if we shove that up against there, it still spins. So now we just need to weld it on. Alright, the drive shaft is now connected, or not the drive shaft.
Oh, really?
The steering shaft is now connected with some very amazing welds. There were some good ones at the start, but then I just kept welding. But now our drive shaft turns, and oh, just fixed itself. I accidentally welded part of the bearing, and I was like, yeah, we'll fix itself, and that it did. Or part of the bearing. That's probably part of the bearing. Either way, it works. That's probably part of the bearing, but
Nice.
steering works great. It doesn't lift out. So we'll see how it goes. Let's get to putting this front end back together. It's been a while, but check this out. We have working steering. Although, I don't know how much you're going to be turning with this little steering radius, but I don't know. But next up on the agenda of things I want to do today is, as you see, the steering column's kind of in your face.
You didn't have to cut me off.
So I'm thinking instead I'm going to chop the steering wheel column down to here, like right here, and figure out a way to mount the steering wheel. Now, I know what you're saying. This steering wheel doesn't look like it'd go in a Model T. I know, I'm broke. And I'm not trying to buy a steering wheel. This is just what I had. So I'm gonna mount it like, there's not really a way for me to show you unless I grind this off. Be right back. That is better. I'm thinking of putting the steering wheel like right here. A steering bracket based on what I get after. Now I have to figure out a bracket for this steering wheel. Well, I went ahead and finished the steering column, which I think it looks pretty nice. We're not going to talk about this right here. I cut it down, the steering wheel down more without remembering why I didn't cut it down in the first place. But now we've got a good turning steering wheel. It turns real nice. We've got some pretty good steering. Now I'm just thinking about if I want to just wash this down and paint it, or grind it completely down and paint it. I do know we're gonna get some rain, so I gotta get all this bare metal covered up. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wash it with the pressure washer and prep it for paint. We're gonna tear this thing down and get it ready for paint, finally. Well, let's sand down the main body. Now it's time for spray paint, and we're painting it hunter green after the image I'm gonna show on screen in just a second. My great grandpa refurbished Model A's, and his favorite Model A is called Desert Flower, and it was in this hunter green color. So let's rattle can this thing. Now it's time to reassemble on this sketchy table. Now, in this box, I have everything I believe I need, other than maybe like a throttle kit. To finish the Shriner's car, I've got tires and inner tubes for all 4 tires, one of which I've actually already mounted, just to make sure. I'll show you that in a second. Those came with patch kits. Next, I got a sprocket for the differential side of the engine drive assembly. And lastly, I've got a centrifugal clutch right here, all in black, so hopefully it should match, but pretty nice. So I'm gonna show you this real quick. So I've got the first of the 4 tires mounted and inflated at 35 psi, and I'd say they look pretty good if I don't say so myself. So let's get to mounting the rest of these tires. Now that we got tires on all 4 wheels of this thing, I kind of want to see it roll and be in the light. So I'm going to get this thing on the ground and then we'll see it roll. The next thing that's really easy to do is install the centrifugal clutch. So as you can see, there's a key there, and this is the keyed shaft. So what you do is you're gonna throw your centrifugal clutch in the keyed slot on the shaft, just like that. And then what I'm thinking I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna thread this bolt I found right into the shaft like this. There you go. And this washer will keep it from the centrifugal clutch from just sliding right off. That's our centrifugal clutch installed. Finished the entire drivetrain. So what I did is I flipped the differential upside down. That way it's poking up out the top instead of sticking down out the bottom. That way we won't hit the ground. And I have a working brake. Kinda still needs to be ironed out, but I'll iron it out when I get to it. And then, so centrifugal clutch to chain to our sprocket, to our differential. I went ahead and topped that up and just welded up a really bad mounting bracket. But a couple days ago, my dad siphoned all the gas out of my tank because he needed some gas for another project. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this siphon pump, and I'm gonna go over to where the Rust Rocket's grave is and siphon gas out of it. Alright, I siphoned some gas out of the Rust Rocket over there, and I'm a little nervous that this thing's just gonna take off, but alright, I did that off camera, but basically what I did is I went under here and mounted a little bracket to hold up the bottom. And then right here, I got the original mounting bracket, mounted it, welded it there, and onto there. So, I know those welds don't look the greatest. I didn't want to grind the paint off, so we're going to try this. I think I'm going to try starting it while sitting in it. Ugh. Oh, okay. I'm driving. Alrighty, now we're testing this thing's off-road capabilities. Let's see what this thing can do. Yeah, no, this thing's very underwhelming. Why is there a crankshaft? Oh wow, it did that better than I expected. Yeah, I doubt that looked cool at all. It's a little windy, so you're not gonna get a proper outro, but this thing is not the fastest, but it's definitely one of the coolest builds I've had here on Fix It Fool's Garage. I want to thank everyone for sticking around, and we'll see what we get up to in the next video. Thank you all for watching, and peace out, because it's starting to rain and I want to get home.